Okay, so hello everyone. It's such an honor to be here and to meet you all. Let's keep on talking because you're all brilliant, so it's an honor to be here. I'm going to talk about the work that we, WCS, along with the Wildlife Friendly Enterprise Network, carry along in Patagonia and in the Chaco region in Paraguay. Okay, but I will mostly speak about the Argentinian side of Patagonia. That's where we been working for many, many years. So I will focus on that. So just to put some order very quickly, I'm going to tell you where we work, our vision, what the conflict is, and what the reality and the impact on wildlife, the coexistence tools that we are using and trying, the regenerative plus wildlife-friendly certification that we have there, and how we're expanding our model, and some conclusions. So I will be as fast as my English let me. So just to put some context on the geographical side, Chaco is right there, and Paraguay is the country that looks like, well, that place right there. And Patagonia, well, you all know Patagonia, Chilean side and Argentine side. So as conservation biologist, if I show this picture to you, it could make a lot of sense. This is the Andean cat, and it's an endangered species that happens in Patagonia. But what I will try to do in these few minutes is try to tell you what the other picture, or what the picture tried to express, that is the fashion industry and the textile world, how it is related to our project also. Or how these two landscapes that looks apparently unconnected, they are really related in our project. So again, to give you some context on what we do and to tell you about our vision, that is to see healthy populations of Patagonian carnivores, scavengers, and herbivores coexisting with livestock producers in regenerated and climate-resilient private lands that connect much bigger protected lands. And these producers have a really tough reality that jeopardize their livelihoods. So the two major conflicts that we have is the competition for resources and the livestock predation. And these are the answers that producers have found over the years. And of course, you all know that even they look really impressive, they are absolutely inefficient. So we tried some tools, we developed some tools, and we implemented. For example, livestock guardian dogs, we built our own breeding facilities in Mendoza province in northern Patagonia, along with our great partners, the Andean Cat Alliance. So we breed our own dogs. We use predator deterrent lights. Those are the night guards, but now we are using the fox lights also, that they're starting to work really well. We designed these water covers so guanacos can access those water sources, but sheep can. So, and we made some modifications on fences in order for guanaco to roam freely. And well, about guanaco live-shearing, that's quite a complex thing. We have Gabriela Lichtenstein, an expert on that matter, and tomorrow she's talking about that. But we can talk about that if you have any question. But it's really an alternative, a really good alternative for a natural resource to use it on a sustainable way. So I would love to introduce to you Flavio Castillo. He's a livestock producer from northern Neuquén. Of course, he was not able to be here, but I want to show what he has to say. And let me see if...
Predadores son comunes, las pérdidas son importantes. Carnívoros hay varias especies, como puma, zorro, gato montés, gato pajonal y gato andino. Nosotros adaptamos la herramienta porque toda la vida se cazó, toda la vida se armó trampa, se trató de matar y nunca se logró reducir las pérdidas. La expectativa que tengo es que el perro es una herramienta muy buena que vamos a parar la predación. Con el perro se convive con los carnívoros y se protege también lo que uno produce. La fauna es de la zona y tenemos que cuidarla y convivir con ellos.
So Flav is such a great person. We know him many years, but his opinion is the opinion for most of the livestock producers that we work with. And it's really amazing to work with these people. And if I stop here, we could be looking at a successful coexistence program. Don't get me wrong, it took so many years and so much effort, and we lost a lot of battles on the way. But right now, it's a really successful program. But in the meantime, while we were doing all this, a really brilliant idea was born. And I'm sorry. Okay. And that's the Wildlife Friendly Enterprise Network, whose executive director, Christine Pai, is right here. So I highly recommend you all to speak with her because she's great. And this certification allowed us to show the world, and by the world I mean the media, and the companies and the designers and even the government, to show the efforts made by these producers to coexist with wildlife. So the fashion industry took notice gradually. It wasn't right away, but gradually they started looking for the fibers and they were starting to use them. And it's not only certified fibers, they are really great fibers, high quality fibers. And this was great, but it brought us a situation that we didn't expect, and it was kind of complicated because suddenly we started receiving calls from designers and companies from all over the world asking for the fibers to us, to Wildlife Conservation Society, where we're an NGO, conservation NGO. So the thing is that the small cooperatives and the small-scale producers were not ready, were not organized enough to open to the international textile market. So they were calling us because they didn't get responses from them. So we start thinking, okay, so what do we do? Do we get into that? And because it was way out of our expertise to work on the commercial side of the fibers. But we thought, and we still think, that if we wanted this project to grow and to stand by its own in the future, we had to put ourselves in that situation. So we did, and we started talking with all the stakeholders in the production chain, and it's been great. It opened a lot of doors for us. We could connect producers with companies and with designers, and it has been a really great experience. The other group that took notice of the work that we were doing is the government. And for us, that was crucial because we know that in order for conservation strategies to be implemented in the long term, we need the government to be involved. So once the livestock guardian dogs, for example, they started to show results, the government took notice of that and they started working with us. And they stimulate to build their own facilities for breeding the dogs. And they developed a really good and affordable loan system that allowed the small-scale producers to buy those dogs. So this is a great relationship. And also they took notice about the wildlife-friendly certification, and they declared it of provincial interest by the legislative chamber. So that was great also. So, well, I think I might be running out of time now, but these are three new aspects of our project that are really amazing, because now we're working with regenerative management of the land, we're working with soil carbon, and we're working with traceability. On traceability, we're doing a pilot with Textile Genesis. That's an Indian company that has a really modern traceability system that for the first time ever, the traceability is going back to the producers, because usually traceability starts on the spinner. So from the spinner to the retails maybe. But we needed to show transparency about who these producers are, where they are, and most important, how do they develop their production. So for us, it's really important. And well, if everything goes well, by July or August, we will finish this pilot, and it's going really well. So just to finish, and well, we all know that we're all connected, and we know that for sure. But when you see that happening with your own eyes and happening in front of you, and with you being part of, it's just amazing to see how the decisions made in Milan by the Material Innovation Laboratory from Caring, a luxury brand, are making a difference on the conservation of the Patagonian steppe. Or a random client on Tokyo buying something to face the Japanese winter in a really glamorous way can help the livelihood of Cristina Garcia, who is a livestock producer that is really committed on doing her work on, in harmony with nature. Well, that's just amazing. So thank you very much.
If there was an award for the most well-timed presentation, you would have got it today. Well, that leaves us with some time to answer questions, and I might even take the opportunity to request other speakers here, since you were the last one. Please feel free to ask questions for other speakers as well, if you may have a few.
Sorry, no, you mentioned that you did some partnership with other NGOs like the Pangolin and others. So who's producing the products? Those partners, like those organizations, or like the Peru in the, or the community in Peru? Yeah.
No, we make all the product.
Oh,
so
okay.
Because we're almost like a wholesaler, so we all the product that's made is sold in stores, so we sell a wholesale. So what the other NGOs are doing is buying the product at wholesale, and then they're turning around and selling it. So they're making their profit, and then we sell the product. Yeah. They're also all really friends. But it's great because they order thousands of product too. So it's a way of it's a win-win for everybody. So yeah.
Thank you. You have a question?
I have a question for you. Could you talk a bit more about the soil carbon potential of the grass?
That's one,
the
that's one
grasslands.
new thing, and well, I'm not the carbon expert on the team. Mm-hmm. We are starting that, and we are taking samples in the places or in the ranches that we work with. So those samples are being analyzed right now. So that will give us the baseline for the improvements with the regenerative management of land, to see if we can capture more carbon. And there is, probably you all know that there is a carbon market, and there is many things going on. We're not talking about money right now with people because we don't know what will happen. And in Argentina particularly, if you speak about dollars with people, it's just like we all go crazy about dollars. So if we say, okay, the carbon credit is this much dollars, okay, now our project is just about it. So we're not speaking about money now, we're speaking about more about the soil health, and carbon has a lot to do with that. But I don't know if that answers your question, but we are in the first steps of that.
Mm-hmm. We should
but
talk
I will
later.
let you know. I will let you know.
We're at the same stage.
Already? Okay, sure. It would be great to talk.
And then I'll come to both of you. We have time, so we have the luxury of that. Thanks to you.
Hi, thanks for interesting presentations. I wanted to ask a slightly provocative question. I mean, I've been a bit stunned, frankly, in this conference by all these kind of conservation researchers and NGOs driving into these communities with their big vehicles, and then being a bit surprised that the community doesn't take them seriously and tells them to get lost. I mean, where's the government engagement? Where's the working with national partners? Where's the kind of sustained long-term vision of how these communities are going to be worked with, beyond kind of just driving in and saying, hello, I'm here to do research? I mean, not so much for yours. I saw you were engaging with
we've been there
government.
for 30 years. No, not me.
But some of the other ones, to be honest.
I really don't know. But
I think that's a really good question. In Peru, there is nobody where we are in the north, basically. There's no other NGOs. Like, we've tried to collaborate with other people. In terms of government, the government I don't even think are aware of half of the small villages that are there. The only reason actually some of these have roads is because of the mining that are doing exploration. For us, it's and that's the thing with Felty, it's a forever. Like when we come into a community like that and we're working, like we've been working with them for 12 years, in terms of the Felty. So the research, in some areas we have research questions, in some areas it's just working with all, the idea in this case is there are communities, and within one community there's villages. So we are working with every single village with the idea of them together trying to protect their habitat against mining. But yeah, I mean, in also, 15 years ago, we were pretty naive in the way we did things too, like just showing up, and it's almost a little bit arrogant in a way, thinking that you can just walk in there and they're going to welcome you. So I mean, we've come a long way in how we approach things, and that's why for us, Felty is all we do is we show up, and we don't always show up in a vehicle. I mean, I put the vehicle up there, but we don't always show up in a vehicle. It could be just walking, motorbike, whatever that is, and just, there's a whole process to get there. That was sort of simplified. But I mean, those are challenges that we all have to think about. And the long term, like when you take on a community like that, and we don't want to be mining, you don't just come in there with these big, huge promises and then turn around and walk away and leave them. So for us, when we start with the community, that's like a permanent relationship that we plan on maintaining forever. And that's why the Felty is great, because we always have to show up, we always have to pay, we always have to be there, we check in. So there's this whole other part that you don't quantify. Like, we don't have to do formal workshops. It doesn't have to be all these costly things. We have a lawyer on our staff. They probably call like every week just because they have a question about something unrelated. It could be even a family issue or an issue with another town. So they're just sort of little services that we try to provide continuously. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Thank you.
Hi, I mean, thank you all for your presentations first. I was just really interested to know, with the income coming in, for example, the Felty, but it could be any of the income, how you work to link that income with actual conservation behaviours, because we often find that even if you bring the income in, it doesn't necessarily mean a change in the conservation behaviours. So making that link is really important. I just wondered how you did that.
Well, there's two sides. Like I said, I sort of simplified things. There's two sides of this program. So the Felty for us isn't just really about changing a behavior. It's about opening a door for us to get into the community and creating a connection with the community. And there are behaviors and things that we talked about. The fires, for example. We do workshops and we try to teach them how to control out of control wildfires and things like that. But it's not like we're having conflict in the same way that I see a lot of other people are having conflict, where they're doing a lot of retaliatory killing. I mean, they did do that every once in a while. So for us, it's not so much about that as more just building that relationship and then working with them together to help them. It's their indigenous lands to help them in whatever their needs are. And we just can't even approach them. So that's, for us, is that, I don't know if that makes sense. That's just our entrance into the community. So
just to follow up the question, like, have you monitored like the Andean population, like the bears in those communities? If there's an impact?
No, because as I mentioned, it's not in this, and this is only one area that we're working. So we've done that in other areas where we don't do Felty, but in this area, it's really, our biggest threat is mining companies. So it's having mining companies come in and them not having control of their land, because these indigenous villages do not have the legal tenure for their land. And so that's why we have a lawyer on staff, is really to help the communities register their land. They don't want mining, but if they're not properly registered, the mining companies can just come in and basically take the top off the mountain. So really for us, it's more of that. Yeah.
Thank you. We'd like to take this question as well, because it relates to the work you do.
Well, in our case, I'm sorry, who did that question? You and you. So in our case, there were like two stages of this project. So first, as I tried to show on the presentation, but first we tried to change the reality of the producers, especially with carnivores. So when that was solved, they were already happy, and it was like an income because they don't have any losses. So if we finish that, it was a success. Then with the certification, and then we could open to the market and show, hey, here's this fiber, and here's the story behind the fiber. So, and that is where we are now. They're starting to negotiate the prices with a much better background, and they have something that is really interesting, and the market is asking for, and it's that certification that has like the name of WCS, Annual Wildlife Friendly Enterprise Network, on it. So it brings some kind of trust for the companies and the designers. So, but that will be, and this is not where we're not going to jump in there. The negotiations is between the producers, the cooperatives, and the companies. We're not talking about money in that stage, in those stages. And this is happening right now. Right now, that there are, because we had a very small quantity of certified producers, like 5 years ago. So they put the price, but it was not the negotiation because of the certification. It was more like, we have the certificate, and this is more attractive, and that's it. But now we're talking about 50 tons, maybe 100 tons of fiber being sold to luxury brands. So now it's going to get interesting. And we will see how it goes. We don't know yet. We don't know. I wish it's 20%. It could be my dream. 20%. If it's 5, it is fine. Because certifications tend to grow in time. Same has happened with RWS, like responsible wool standards or responsible mohair standards. I don't know if you're familiar with certifications, but it's quite a dynamic thing. It's not that you can put a price and it's always 10%. It doesn't work like that. But we're on that place, and I hope it's going to be good for producers.
Thank you. We have one more question from Christina.
Yes. Thank you. Christine Lippai, I'm with the Wildlife Friendly Enterprise Network. I just wanted to answer that question actually that came through. So when we enter into the certification agreement with the producers, conservation is embedded directly in those standards. And so if you're connecting to a market, the incentive is for the communities, or the producers, let's call it, to continue with the conservation elements that are prescribed in the standards. And so that's how conservation takes place. So I wanted to just clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the point. And now, with the power vested in me by the organizers, I'm going to ask a question myself. And my question to Angela, you mentioned some resource crunch towards the end, but then you also mentioned roughly $60 million being raised by tourism. Where does that money go? How much of it stays with the community? How much of it goes out? I'd just like to know, because I mean, tourism can be a great conservation tool, but it can also be like a double-edged sword. It can cause equal amount of damages as well. So.
Yeah, so definitely, I think it's very clear, and it was, we started thinking about this model of incentive or compensation. So at the moment, there is no compensation to losses to the communities at all. But it's a lot of money coming in from the area, but that is not really linked at all. So we're working as much as we possibly can with the authorities, with the key stakeholders, with the local communities, very much engaged with the tourism operators as well. I think it's also the priorities made by authorities. So at the moment, when we started making this trial, the agreement was that the authority would pay the community payments. That was part of the agreement, and it was to be a trial to see if it could be expanded. When COVID hit, there was, in addition to that, the revenue also had to go directly to the state. And you're talking a country that has a lot of needs. So unfortunately, the priorities for the conservation, that approach did not happen. So it's about will, it's about priorities, it's about capacities as well, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. And we're